A man was rejected by Google because of his education. He was so angry that he hacked Google's website. But when he arrived at work the next day, and the manager fired him for it, and warned him that he had to restore Google's ads, but Daniel didn't care. He walked out of the office. He put the email from Google on his wall. He set a small goal for himself. Daniel decided to start and sell his company within a year. As a good engineer, he built a quality search site in just 6 months. He believed that in the near future everything would be digitized, and the program he built was one of the first programs to show different ads to different users. But it got some attention, but it never became a hit, until one day two people who changed the Swedish IT world discovered the software he designed, and their two-line trading company went public in just 5 years, and instantly became the world's leading online marketing giant. Daniel came to the company, and what he saw surprised him. Tech companies are generally depressing, but this company is incredibly lively, and the person who drove this atmosphere was actually the president of the company. He arrived at the office before Daniel could speak. Martin motioned for him to sit down. He thought Daniel was a new intern, and he was mumbling to himself about a genius named Daniel who was coming in soon. The website was amazing. The company receives 10% of every click that goes to the site, and the site records your clicking habits, and then it pushes the ads you want to you. Daniel smiled proudly but didn't interrupt. Martin says they tried to do the same thing once and failed, so now they had to buy Daniel's company. Just then another partner walks in, and brought in a real intern. Martin looks at Daniel with surprise. He realized that the genius he was talking about was the young man in front of him. Daniel was only 22 years old at the time. It was true that the power of the network engineer depended on the amount of hair. Daniel sold his company for $10 million, but he wanted to do more than that. He asked Martin what Silicon Valley has that we don't. What is it about Silicon Valley that makes it so famous for changing the world? And all we can do is make these little advertisement websites. And Martin was shocked. He couldn't believe how ambitious this young man was. He wanted to compete with Silicon Valley, but it was Daniel's ambition that endeared him to Martin. He asked Daniel to come up with a plan that could compete with the giants of Silicon Valley. Daniel walked out of the ballroom and saw a poster for Bobby's show. So he went to the bar and stood in the crowd, and he listened to Bobby's beautiful voice. Bobby was an old classmate of his. Now she's an original singer. She says her only wish now is that no one in the audience would record her live and post the songs on the Pirate Bay, so that people could hear the pirated music and no one would be paying to listen to it. He asked Danielle how she was doing. He blandly said he just sold his company for $10 million, and that's about it. And then Bobby's boyfriend walks up. Bobby hugged him and left quickly. All Daniel could do was drink and bury his love. It was a good thing he was a bachelor with $10 million. He bought a flashy red sports car, replaced it with a fancy Swiss watch, and he brought his mother an expensive gift. But his mother didn't seem happy. He knew Daniel was spending money on these unnecessary things, is to find fulfillment for himself. Mother knew Daniel wasn't happy, because his ambition wasn't about money, but rather a sense of fulfillment. That day Daniel saw the news about the Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay was now the 5th largest website on the internet. The site was full of pirated music. It is favored by many young people because it is free. Record labels have been resisting the Pirate Bay's piracy efforts. That's why they've been fighting the Pirate Bay for several years. The site takes a long time to download music. The download may fail. Daniel was struck by an idea that came to him in a flash. He couldn't wait to get to Martin and tell him what he wanted to do. What can't Silicon Valley do? The music industry. No one was caught in the middle of the war between the record labels and the youth, so a lot of the companies that were making money from it were getting out of the business, and he felt like that was the gap in the market right now, because nobody wants to be associated with the Pirate Bay, so no one's creating a good music website. But Martin thinks the Pirate Bay is complete now, and the users love it. Daniel explains that it's because it's the only option people have, so people have to use it. But if you look at it carefully, you'll see that the Pirate Bay is a very poorly done website. It's not just the listings that are confusing, and the download speeds are terrible. By the time you finish downloading, the delay takes up most of the time. Although the Pirate Bay is free, but it relies on advertising, and advertising is his and Martin's specialty. Now what they have to do is simple. Make a product like the Pirate Bay, but more complete. If such a lousy web page can attract over 30 million views a month, so from a business perspective, a better free music site would have a higher upside. Daniel wants to buy the music rights. If the Pirate Bay won't do it, we'll do it. Martin had just sold his company. He had nothing left but millions of dollars.